Happy Tomato Pizza with Coach Kevin McMillan. The Skyhawks fall in the first round of the NCAA tournament, 97-64 to Notre Dame. Coach, let's talk about the game. You were concerned that Notre Dame would get off to a fast start. They did, but we didn't panic. You were down 11, you cut it to 4 or 6, and you continued to compete with them throughout the first half. Talk about the first half of the game.
Well, we have played Baylor, and we've played Stanford, and we've played Purdue, we've played Louisville. So when they jumped out early, I didn't know if I should call a timeout or not. You know, you're in the NCAA tournament. I kind of told myself I was not going to give them a 4-point run, not even a 4-point run, because I was going to use our timeouts. And when the game was going, and I honestly said, we're getting good shots. Mm-hmm. And here I go again. It's like the Eastern Kentucky game. We're getting good shots. What am I going to call a timeout and do? If I call a timeout, they're going to get more nervous because I don't ever do it. So I thought, no, just sit over and let them play and just keep going and see if you can't get some shots. And Butler banked in a couple that are not like her, but you're not in a familiar surroundings. You're not really comfortable with what's going on, and you bank them in, and that was part of a run. And next thing you know, it's a 4 or 6 point game, and they're not stopping us. I mean, we're scoring every time down the floor, and I thought, if they keep doing this, kind of like the Duke game 3 years ago, if they're not going to adjust, we're going to score. And you give them credit for adjusting, but it's just funny to say they had to go to a triangle and 2 to get Butler Newsome stopped.
Is that the first time you've seen a triangle and 2 this year?
No, we've seen it about 5 or 6 different times, mm-hmm. and SIUE played it twice for an entire game.
They did.
And we played really well against it here. It's ironic. We played really well against it here and did fine and got destroyed on the glass. Well, that's what happened in this game. As soon as they went to the triangle, we immediately got 4 wide open shots. Wide open. And we missed them. And then they scored those 4 possessions. And next thing you know, the game's out of hand. And that's what a good team like that can do to you. And that's what she was saying, and that's what I'm saying, is that if you've got 2 other players and a rebounder, mm-hmm. you're going to that triangle and 2, and those 2 kids are going to score 10 points each because you're not guarding them. And that's what we did to them. That's why Lloyd got so much. We just didn't guard her.
Right.
And so if you've got players that can make plays, then you've got that. Now, we've got role players who are a little bit scared to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and so we weren't able to handle that. And but it wasn't that they didn't have good shots. They just missed them. But the game got away from us right there. And
at the end of the first half.
At the end of the first half. And the crazy thing was, and I started to call a timeout again and say, guys, remember Baylor and remember Stanford, that with 4 minutes to go in those games we were down 2. And this one we were down 4 or 6. I don't know what. But in each one of them, those teams made a run at the end of the half to push it out to where they were comfortable. And I said, have we learned from that or not? Well, I didn't call a timeout, but that's exactly what happened in this one. And so it got a little bit away from us, and then they made a good run in the second half. And then, give our kids credit that once they pushed it out to whatever it was, it held, and we battled and stayed right there. And the funny thing is that she said in her interview afterwards, they talked about resting her players and stuff, and she said, I couldn't rest them near as much as I wanted to,
sure,
because I never felt comfortable with UT Martin. And that's a tribute to Butler and Newsome. And it also shows you that even though they were up 20 or 25 or whatever, she didn't like it. She didn't like how it felt. And but we were able to we kept scoring, which was one of the things I thought would be the problem, but we just couldn't score enough given the fact that we couldn't rebound.
When Notre Dame's Coach McGraw, came into the post-game press conference, these are her words. And you were not in there. You had left. You had your own press conference, yeah. And you left. She sat down and she said, her first thing she said was, I thought Butler had probably the best individual game anybody's had against us all year long. She was phenomenal. 37 points. We went to the triangle too late in the first half to try to contain her for a little bit. I think we slowed her down for 4 minutes, but she played extremely well. What a great performance by her.
Well, that's exactly what the game was if you didn't get to watch it. And what Heather Butler did was just absolutely amazing. And if she had made 2 layups and 3 free throws, which would have been easy for her, she would have broken all kinds of records. And it's real funny. They were talking about the all-time record against Notre Dame is 38 points. And the ironic thing about that is, a little bit of trivia for you, the girl that scored 38 points against her, her name is Latasha Byers. She is from Bolton High School, and I coached against her when I was at Millington, and Paige played against her in high school. When Byers was a freshman, I think Paige was a senior, and then I coached against Byers when she was a senior. And then the Butler did break the all-time NCAA scoring record against Notre Dame. It was 36 points, and she broke it and got 37. Well, Latasha Byers is who's one of the best rebounders that's ever been in the country. And then the 36 was Maya Moore. So the category that she squeezed herself, is squeezed the word?
Yeah.
Squoze in the word. the category that she squeezed herself into is Maya Moore and Latasha Byers, and that's absolutely phenomenal. And Heather played well, and she probably left about 6 or 8 points out there.
She did.
And I got mad at her free throws, but they weren't bad. They were in and out, and you can't get mad at those. Sometimes it does that, but I was mad at her because I wanted every one of them to go in for.
Yeah.
But what she did on that stage, it rivals Jasmine's 42 points in the OVC tournament.
Right.
I mean, it's almost identical. And the only difference was this was a little bit bigger stage, but there was more at stake, arguably, that Jasmine had to do. But what she did, I can't wait. At least I know she'll do it. I would just like to see a highlight film of Butler and Newsom in that game and some of the things that they did, because I'm going to say this, and I guess if they listen to it, they can. We picked on Skylar Diggins.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we picked on her.
Yeah.
She's an All-American.
Yeah.
And I went at her. I just said, give the ball to Newsom or Butler and go at Diggins. And what they did to Diggins 2 or 3 times I was shocked. And again, I think most of it is that Diggins just didn't expect that she was going to have to deal with that. I think if that kid walked in here and was going, all right, I know I've got to hunker down, and I know that I've got to do this, that, and the other, that she would have said, okay, I'm going to make some stops here. But I don't think she was prepared for Butler and Newsom to do the things that they did.
They did not bring Diggins into the post-game press conference, but some of their other players were complimenting the play of Butler. And I said on the radio, to me, she looked like Jasmine looked like in the OVC tournament, where she was just aggressive and confident. And there was at one point in a fast break when it was isolation with Heather Butler and Diggins, and she just took her to the basket and scored on her.
Oh, yeah.
It went really easy.
Well, and she got fouled.
Yes. They didn't call it. They didn't. No. But as a matter of fact, the whole story as a broadcaster is you study the other team and you look at the storyline, and the storyline on that team, even though they're very talented, is Diggins. She's a player that'll probably play at the next level. She, on her shoe, she wears there's an N and an S, and that stands for next shot. I mean, she grew up playing in South Bend in a rec league with guys. I mean, she plays like a guy. But you know what? What you did to her in that game made me walk away really not that impressed, because my expectations of her were through the roof. Everything I talked about and read about, she didn't show that against
Well,
us.
she can do that. What you saw there was it's not fair to say to her, but the way she plays sets herself up perfectly for, 1, the way that I coach, and 2, the way that Butler plays, and 3, the way that Newsom plays. And so the poor thing, it was 3-on-1. Because when we got her in a certain situation, now there were times when I got her as far away from the play as I could. You didn't notice that. But then there were other times when we would get her over and we'd try to pick on her a little bit. And it's because she's so good and she's so aggressive. If you can pick and choose your times, that you can use that against her. And that's what we did. And I'm telling you, I was so scared of her that I was zoned in on her and I was trying to watch her. And whenever I could get her doing certain things, we tried to go after her a certain way. And whenever we tried to get her doing other things, whenever I saw some things, I was like, get her away, because she can disrupt so many things. And so her talent and her skill and her just overall abilities kind of played against her in that game, because Butler and Newsom can handle her one-on-one, not whip her, but they can handle her. And then when you factor in some of the things that we do, we screen certain ways, we put her in a bind about, okay, am I going to help or not? If I don't help, I may give up a layup. Well, if you hesitate, now Butler is going to be open, and we just did a lot of things during that game, and it worked because they made shots. And let's don't put it on anything, but Butler and Newsom made tough shots, and she made them make tough shots. But here's the thing: we hadn't hadn't done that in the past 2 NCAA tournaments. We had not had those kind of games. If Butler has that game against Tennessee, we might have beaten them last year.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think we could have beaten Duke no matter what because we weren't ready for it. But if Butler last year had gotten 37 points in that ball game, we've got a chance to beat them. So we hadn't proved yet that we could make big shots in a big game. So those two now can come away from there saying we can do that.
Skylar Diggins ended up with 10 points. She did have 6 assists, but also 3 turnovers and played 32 minutes. I also thought, and while you were talking about Tennessee and Duke, some of their players to me impressed me a little bit more, but as of Notre Dame, this is maybe the best team I've ever seen in their efficiency, the way they pass the basketball, and out of 38 field goals, they had 26 assists.
Well, a lot of that was they got a rebound and handed it to someone that made a bucket, but no, I'm just kidding. People ask me to compare the 3 schools, and Baylor by far has the most dominating player in Brittany Griner, and she is the best basketball player probably that's ever played in women's basketball. I mean, she's phenomenal.
And a lot of that, some of that skill level, a lot of that's just size.
Yeah. But you don't see many kids that size with that skill level and that athletic. I mean, she's just phenomenal, and it was fun to play against her. But now they're very athletic too, the whole team. Then you go to Stanford, and they're the most disciplined system running team that I've ever played against. I mean, the most detailed execution, smart basketball team that I've ever seen. Well, I hadn't seen Connecticut. Well, I've seen them, but I hadn't played against them. Notre Dame is the best collection of basketball players that I have ever seen play together. I mean, what those, and I'm going to make fun of myself and my own team, but every once in a while in practice, I'll go out there and I'll start doing some stuff with the girls, trying to show them things to look for, and I'll throw passes that I know are there, and the girls don't know they're there. I felt like they were doing that to us, like 5 of them, and I was just going. I mean, 3 or 4 times they let go of the ball, and I thought, oh, that's a turnover, and a girl catches it, they lay it in, or a girl catches it wide open, and I'm like, you couldn't have seen that, you know, and they did. So I came away.
It surprised me, though, because I was not that impressed with their size. I mean, it was okay, and I wasn't impressed with anybody individually, but as a team.
Well, the problem, and if we had to play them again, see, what I'd love to do is get to play them, you know, twice a year. Let's go get in that conference.
You know what would be great, like an NBA series where you.
I love that because what I'm going to do next time is I'm going to take all that assist stuff away, and I'm going to get up in somebody, and every one of them's going to have to go score. Well, they're going to. Well, but I'm going to try to figure out which one of them don't like to do it, and then we're going to start helping and figuring out. You can't do that in a one-game series. I mean, it's a win or lose, you're done, and it's really hard watching film to figure out what other teams. Connecticut's figured it out. They know who they're going to do this and do that to. But when you watch the games, it's really hard to figure out what teams are really doing. You know, you have to get them to tell you what they're thinking. Otherwise, you don't know. But that's the one thing that I would take away in the next game was I'm not going to let you have all those assists. You're going to have to finish at the basket. But what that does, the reason they're so good is that means McBride and Diggins get to take over.
Right.
And that's when they have beaten Connecticut's, and that's when they've beat everybody else. It's because Diggins and McBride will take over. And we went into this game going, the one thing that we're going to not let happen is Diggins and McBride take over. Because we've seen them do that. We want somebody to do something they haven't done before. Jewel Lloyd had a career high. She's a freshman going in the NCAA tournament, and it's my fault. We banked on that our best chance at beating them was a freshman in her first NCAA tournament was not going to be able to put the ball in the hole. We weren't going to bet against the 2 All-Americans, so we bet against the freshman. Well, she's an All-American in her own right.
Yeah, but how often would she do that? I mean, it's kind of like pick your poison.
It is. For us, it is pick your poison. And what the poison we picked was a freshman that's never been in an NCAA tournament. We're hoping she's nervous. We're hoping that she's not ready for it. And if she's not, a lot of freshmen aren't. Now, we may have left her too open, or we may have given her something that got her feeling good. And we could never get her. And I really would have loved to seen it if Keish plays, she gets a lot of rebounds. We make a couple of those shots when they went to the triangle, and it goes into halftime as an 8-point game. And then we come out and we hit a shot or two, and now it never gets above 10. Now I want to know if she can make those shots.
Right.
It's one thing to make them when you're up 18 or 20. It's another one to make it up when you're up 6 or it's 5 or whatever. And so that was our goal, was to see if she could make big shots. Well, she didn't have to. She got in rhythm and was loose, and it was just play.
I said the same thing on the radio. I said, if Rickisha is healthy and plays 35 minutes in this game, and she's healthy and she's playing like she did in the OVC tournament, we might not win this game, but it's a different game. It's not even the same story.
And I don't know if anybody really, except maybe us, really understand what could have been different in that ball game. I'm definitely pleased with efforts. I'm just amazed at what Butler and Newsom were able to do, but I'm really disappointed that we didn't get to. If you're going to go play them, at least let's play them full strength, full speed, and knock us out. I mean, beat us. If you're going to beat us. But I just would have loved to see. Keish blocked 2 or 3 shots.
She's blocked 3. They've got her with 2 on the box score.
And she only played really 5 minutes healthy, and she would have disrupted a lot of that stuff around the back. They got a lot of layups. Well, you don't see that against us because Keisha's down there. She's blocking shots or she's altering shots. Well, she wasn't there. They got all these offensive rebounds. She wasn't there. And what you didn't notice is we didn't quite click on offense. You think we did. We didn't, because Keisha's one that sets a lot of those screens.
Absolutely.
And we were having to bring somebody else up, and somebody else had to move from their position. Somebody else had to move from their position. And we were okay because we've had to do it before.
And it puts a different kind of pressure on Shelby.
It puts Shelby is a very good second rebounder. She is not a good first rebounder. Keisha's a good first rebounder. That means Shelby's second, and then whoever else is third. Well, when Shelby had to move to first, that means whoever's third has to move to second. Well, they're not a good second rebounder. And so all of a sudden we're all playing out of the way we're used to playing, and you can't expect to do that against a number 1 seed. And that's what happens is what happens.
Okay, we'll take a break. We'll talk about the season. We'll talk about next season with Coach Kevin McMillan. Skyhawk Talk continues on the Snappy Tomato Pizza stage here on the UT Martin Skyhawk Sports Network.